I was sipping my morning tea on the porch, the steam curling up like whispers from a forgotten dream, while the mist rose off the lake in slow, ethereal waves, unveiling the glassy water beneath. The gentle lapping at the dock created a rhythmic lullaby, and the old wooden cottage creaked softly in the breeze, as if sharing secrets from the generations who had called it home. This place had been my sanctuary since I was a little girl, splashing in the shallows with my grandmother, learning to row under my father's watchful eye, and later building a life here with my husband, Tom. But that serene morning, as the sun pierced the fog with golden fingers, everything was about to shatter. My name is Evelyn Harper, and this is the true story of how I reclaimed my beloved lake cottage from the chaos that had overtaken it. If you're new to my channel, where I share real-life stories of resilience, second chances, and standing your ground, welcome aboard. Hit subscribe and that like button if you've ever had to draw a firm line, whether in the sand or, in my case, across the water's edge. Stick around, because what unfolded next will keep you hooked until the very end. Let me take you back to where it all began, 3 summers ago. I was 68, a retired English teacher with a modest pension that afforded me simple comforts, and a heart brimming with memories anchored to that cottage. It sat on a quiet inlet, surrounded by towering pines that whispered in the wind, their needles carpeting the forest floor like a soft, fragrant blanket. The lake itself was a mirror to the sky, reflecting clouds by day and stars by night, a place where time seemed to slow just for me. Tom and I had bought it decades earlier, turning it into our haven. He'd passed 5 years before from a sudden heart attack that left me reeling, but he'd always insisted the deed stay in my name alone. Evie, he'd say with that warm smile, this is your special place, keep it yours, no complications. We never bothered with a family trust. It felt unnecessary back then, when life was predictable and family bonds seemed unbreakable. That spring, my youngest daughter, Sarah, called me out of the blue. She was 32. Vibrant but always a bit adrift, chasing dreams that never quite materialized. Her voice trembled on the line, carrying the weight of desperation. Mom, things are tough right now. Jake lost his job, some corporate downsizing, and we're barely scraping by. Could we stay at the cottage for the summer, just until we get our feet under us again? Jake was her boyfriend of 2 years, a smooth-talking salesman with a flashy grin and ambitions that outpaced his efforts. He had that charisma that drew people in, but I'd noticed how he leaned on others, always with a story about why things hadn't panned out yet. Of course, I said yes. What mother wouldn't open her arms and her home to help her child in need? I pictured them there, breathing new life into the place, perhaps even helping with the upkeep that had become a bit much for me alone. The first summer started off promising. They arrived in Jake's battered pickup, loaded with boxes and optimism. Sarah, with her curly hair tied back and a determined glint in her eye, dove into tidying the rooms, dusting the shelves lined with my old books, classics like Jane Austen and Mark Twain that I'd read aloud to her as a child. Jake mowed the lawn, his muscles straining under the sun, and we shared evening barbecues on the porch, the smoke from the grill mingling with the scent of pine and lake water. Laughter echoed as we roasted marshmallows, and Sarah even planted a border of wildflowers along the path to the dock, vibrant purples and yellows that bobbed in the breeze like tiny flags of hope. It felt like a fresh chapter, a way to heal the emptiness Tom's absence had left. I visited on weekends, driving the winding roads from the city, the air growing cooler and fresher with each mile, and left feeling reassured. They were grateful. Or so it seemed, and I covered the utilities and taxes without a second thought, out of love, and perhaps a lingering habit of providing. But by the second summer, the cracks began to show. Subtle at first, like ripples spreading across the lakes. Surface before a storm. Jake started inviting his buddies over for what he called weekend getaways. I'd arrive unannounced to find the cottage transformed into a party hub, loud music thumping from portable speakers, vibrating the old windows, beer cans scattered along the shore like discarded confetti, and the pristine lawn churned into a muddy quagmire by ATVs they'd borrowed from some acquaintance. The air reeked of stale smoke and spilled liquor. A far cry from the fresh, earthy scent I cherished. Inside, dishes piled in the sink like forgotten assignments, and the antique quilts I'd sewn by hand, each stitch a memory of quiet winter evenings, were stained with mysterious spills. "It's just harmless summer fun, Mom," Sarah would say, her eyes flicking away from mine, avoiding the disappointment I tried to hide. "We'll clean it all up before you come back full time." I'd nod, biting my tongue, reminding myself that family came first. But that knot in my stomach tightened with each visit, a silent warning I ignored. Deep down, I knew this place held more than wood and water. It was woven into my soul. This was where my grandmother had rocked me to sleep in her ancient oak chair, its smooth arms worn from years of use, while she spun tales of the lake's hidden depths, legends of lost treasures and ancient spirits guarding the waters. That chair, now shoved into a dusty corner to make room for Jake's clunky weight bench, symbolized everything pure about my past. Yet I let it slide, paying the bills month after month, never asking for rent or contributions. Was it guilt, fear of pushing Sarah away, or just the inertia of habit? Whatever it was, it allowed the chaos to fester. Fast forward to this past summer, the third one, and I decided on a surprise visit in mid-July. The drive was as peaceful as ever, the road curving through dense forests where sunlight dappled the asphalt like scattered coins. Birds flitted between branches, and the anticipation built as I neared the lake, imagining a quiet reunion. But as my little hatchback crunched over the gravel driveway, the scene that unfolded hit me like a cold wave. Music blasted from speakers on the porch, a cacophony of bass and shouts that drowned out the natural symphony of the water. A dozen strangers in swimsuits milled about, laughing raucously, some splashing in the shallows, others lounging on my deck chairs. Smoke billowed from a makeshift bonfire pit dug perilously close to the water's edge, defying every fire safety regulation in the area, where dry summers made sparks a real danger. And there, perilously close to the flames, teetered Grandma's rocking chair, its curved arms already singed at the tips, black char creeping up the wood like a thief in the night. My heart plummeted, a stone sinking into the lake's depths. That chair wasn't mere furniture. It was a vessel for my history, a tangible link to the woman who had shaped me with her stories and strength. I marched across the squelching grass in my sensible loafers, my pulse thundering in my ears. "What on earth is going on here?" I demanded, my voice cutting through the noise sharper than I'd planned. Honed from years of commanding attention in rowdy classrooms, Jake spun around, a beard dangling from his hand, his face flushed and sweaty under the sun. He was shirtless. His tattoos a mishmash of eagles and quotes glistening, exuding the air of someone who thought he owned the place. Sarah hovered nearby, twisting a towel in her hands, her expression a mix of surprise and unease. "Oh, hey there, Graham," Jake drawled with a smirk, using that diminutive nickname that grated on me, reducing me to some frail relic. "We're just clearing out some old stuff. That chair's practically falling apart makes decent kindling. You know, old stuff." The word junk, he'd almost said, hung in the air unspoken. But his tone implied it. My blood simmered, but I drew on my teaching discipline, keeping my composure like a shield. "That chair was my grandmother's. It's not for burning. Put out the fire now," he chuckled, a dismissive bark that carried over the water, making a few of his friends glance our way with awkward grins. "Come on, loosen up a bit, and hey, we're taking over the dock all summer, got the guys coming for some serious fishing trips, so maybe just park your little boat off to the side, or tie it to a tree or something." He waved vaguely toward my modest rowboat, bobbing innocently at the pier's end, as if it were an inconvenience in his domain. Sarah shifted her weight, her eyes darting between Jake and the ground, then to me with a plea that went unspoken. I waited, holding my breath for her to intervene. "Jake, that's Mom's boat. This is her cottage." But silence, just the crackle of flames and the mournful call of a loon echoing from across the lake. That quiet betrayal stung deeper than Jake's words, a betrayal of the bond we'd shared. In that instant, something within me fractured, not in anger's explosion, but in a clear, resolute snap, like ice breaking under spring's thaw. The lake's surface, usually so calm, seemed to mirror my shifting resolve. I didn't erupt or argue. Instead, I turned on my heel, walked back to my car, and drove away without another word. In the rearview mirror, the bonfire dwindled to a speck, but the smoke lingered in my thoughts, a symbol of what I'd allowed to burn away. I didn't head straight home to my quiet city apartment, with its stacks of books and empty rooms echoing Tom's absence. No, I veered toward a cozy bed and breakfast 2 towns over. The kind with floral wallpaper that evoked simpler times, homemade scones at breakfast, and a garden buzzing with bees. As I unpacked my overnight bag, always kept in the trunk for impromptu escapes, I felt an unfamiliar thrill course through me. Not rage, but a budding empowerment. Like the first green shoot after a long winter, no tears fell. Instead, I brewed a pot of chamomile tea in the room's little kitchenette, the aroma soothing as I settled into an armchair by the window, watching fireflies flicker in the twilight. I scrolled through my phone to a contact dormant for years, Miriam Goldstein, my estate attorney. We'd connected through a book club, bonding over mystery novels and her sharp wit. She answered on the second ring, her voice crisp despite the late hour. "Evelyn, it's past 9. Is everything all right?" I laid it out succinctly: the encroaching parties, the mounting disrepair, the near desecration of Grandma's chair, and Jake's cavalier claim on the dock. As I spoke, memories flooded back. Tom and I updating our wills after his diagnosis, ensuring the cottage remained mine alone, no shared ownership to complicate things. Miriam listened intently, her occasional mmHmm. "The only interruption, sounds like they've turned guests into squatters," she said finally. "But the good news is crystal clear. The deed's solely in your name, no trust or co-owners. They've had permission until now, but we can revoke it with a formal notice to vacate. No lease means no tenant protections. They're out in 30 days. Max, make it official, I replied, my voice steady as the lake on a still day. Hire a property management firm. I don't want to face them myself. Wise choice. I'll draft it tonight and loop in Lakeside Property Management. They're pros at discreet evictions. We can cut utilities sooner since everything's in your name. Electric, water, internet. It'll send a strong message without you lifting a finger. Hanging up, I sipped my tea, the warmth spreading through me like sunlight on water. What would their faces look like when the notice arrived? Would Sarah finally find her voice? The questions buzzed like those fireflies, but I set them aside. This was no longer about their reactions, it was about reclaiming my peace. If you're rooting for me right now, and I bet you are, smash that like button. It helps these stories of quiet triumphs reach more folks like us. The next morning dawned crisp and bright. Instead of fretting, I strolled along a nearby public park's lakeside path, the gravel crunching underfoot, bird song filling the air, ducks glided on the water, leaving V-shaped wakes. And for the first time in ages, my shoulders felt light. Unburdened by the weight of unspoken resentments, round noon, my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Mom, where'd you go? Jake feels bad about the chair. Come back. I didn't respond. Instead, I wandered into a quaint antique shop downtown. The bell tinkling as I entered, shelves brimmed with treasures, vintage lamps, porcelain figurines, old maps of the region. I browsed for hours, the musty scent of history comforting, and emerged with a small porcelain loon figurine, its elegant form a nod to the birds that haunted my lake. By evening, back at the B&B with its quilted comforter enveloping me like a hug, Miriam called with updates. Papers are set. Carla from Lakeside will serve the notice tomorrow morning. She's efficient, will handle locks on outbuildings and post no trespassing signs. Utilities cut off by end of day 2. I've attached an inventory for damages. We'll bill them if they don't rectify. Include everything, I said. The illegal bonfire pit, the stained quilts, the muddy lawn, it's all adding up. Done. Any items left after 30 days, yours to keep or discard. That night, my dreams were of gentle waves lapping the shore, not the roar of unwanted revelry. But what would the confrontation look like? Would Jake bluster, or would reality finally sink in? Day 2 arrived with a sense of inevitability. I pictured it vividly, Carla's van rolling up the driveway, tires crunching gravel like my arrival days before, Sarah answering the door, perhaps still in pajamas. Eyes heavy from the previous night's successes, Jake looming behind, nursing a hangover. Miriam forwarded Carla's report later that afternoon. It was tense, as expected. This is a formal notice to vacate, Carla stated, extending the envelope with professional poise. 30 days, no extensions, utilities suspend tomorrow evening. Jake grabbed it, his face twisting. What is this? We've been here forever. Got rights or something? Right. Carla didn't flinch. No lease, no rights. The owner holds sole title. Questions? Contact the attorney. Sarah's complexion drained of color. Mom did this. Where is she? Confidential, Carla replied, then oversaw her team as they secured new padlocks on the shed and boathouse, snapping photos of the havoc, scorched patches of grass from the fire, splintered deck chairs from rough use, even childish graffiti scrawled on the dock with permanent marker phrases like Jake's Kingdom that made my stomach turn when I saw the images. My phone lit up soon after missed calls from Sarah. Aggressive texts from Jake. Evie, this is nuts, call me now. I ignored them, treating myself to a spa afternoon at the B&B. A soothing massage that needed away knots I'd carried for months, a facial that left my skin glowing. Why had I tolerated this erosion of my sanctuary for so long? Fear of solitude. Maternal guilt over Sarah's unsteady path. As the therapist worked, I reflected on past summers, teaching Sarah to fish from the dock, her giggles as she reeled in her first perch, family holidays with board games by the fire. Those memories deserved protection. By evening, the utilities. Cut-off struck. I imagined the scene, lights dimming to black, the fridge's hum silencing, Wi-Fi vanishing like mist in the sun. Jake likely stomped around, cursing the darkness. Sarah might have searched for candles, her frustration mounting. Meanwhile, I dined at a charming waterfront restaurant, savoring grilled salmon with lemon butter, the flavors bursting on my tongue, raising a glass of crisp Pinot Grigio. I toasted silently to boundaries and new horizons. The pleas escalated. Voicemails piled up. Sarah's tearful, "Mom, we have nowhere else." Jake needs the internet for job apps. How's he supposed to search? Jake's edged with anger. "You're wrecking everything over some dumb chair." On day 3. From my upgraded extended stay suite overlooking a serene, untainted lake, I finally answered Sarah's call. The room's balcony offered views of sailboats skimming the water, a reminder of freedoms I'd reclaimed. "Mom, what's going on? No power. No water, we're buying bottled from the gas station." "Read the notice carefully, Sarah," I said evenly. "The cottage is mine. You've been welcome guests, but that's ended. 30 days to relocate, but we were building something here." Jake has leads building on my expense, the damages alone thousands. In repairs, that bonfire against code, the docks ruined. Silence stretched, then a sigh. "Jake thinks we can challenge it adverse possession or whatever." I let out a soft laugh. "Tell him to research it properly without online access. It needs hostile occupation without permission, and you've had mine until now. Plus, I've footed every bill, no grounds. Where are you? Anyway, my concern now, focus on packing, and Sarah. Preserve Grandma's chair, it's irreplaceable." I ended the call, then I mailed Miriam, "Move forward with full damage assessment. Deduct from any belongings if needed." The following weeks melted into a blissful routine of rediscovery. I explored local museums, their exhibits on regional history stirring echoes of my own past, lounged by shores with novels, losing myself in tales of heroines who claimed their fates. Even joined a boat tour on a larger lake, the spray misting my face as the guide shared folklore similar to Grandma's stories. Curiosity about their scramble nagged occasionally. Were they arguing? Packing frantically, but I resisted the urge. To check, Miriam's updates sufficed. They'd consulted a budget lawyer who retreated after reviewing the ironclad deed. Jake vented on social media labeling me cold-hearted, but it rebounded when mutual acquaintances chimed in about the infamous parties, sharing tales of noise complaints and litter. Around day 15. Sarah appeared at my city apartment. I'd shared the address years ago for emergencies. I buzzed her up, brewing tea in my cozy kitchen, the aroma of Earl Grey filling the space. She looked exhausted, dark circles framing her eyes, her usual spark dimmed. "Mom, Jake's bailing. Says without the cottage, it's over. He blames you entirely." I set the cups down gently. "If your bond relies on my property, it was fragile to begin with. You're stronger alone. Sarah, find work, your own space rebuild." Tears brimmed. I thought family meant unconditional support. Family means mutual respect. You allowed him to disrespect my home, my memories. She nodded, a flicker of understanding dawning. I secured a remote spot in town. Can I take some things? The couch, maybe. Only what's truly yours. The inventory's detailed, no exceptions. She departed subdued, but with a hug that felt like a tentative bridge. Perhaps this was the push she needed. By day 30, Carla's final report confirmed the cottage stood empty, though not immaculate. Stains lingered on rugs, scratches marred the hardwood floors. But nothing irreparable. Jake had hauled away his gear in his truck, Sarah hers in her compact car. Grandma's chair waited on the porch, miraculously intact, as if guarding the entrance. I drove up that afternoon, the familiar roads welcoming me like